Well, welcome in, Mallory. I'm so happy to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited that I'm able to come on here again and talk.
Praise God. Well, the last time that we were together, you were you still are, the new Miss Florida volunteer, but you had not gone to Jackson, Tennessee yet. So, would you mind sharing a little bit about how that was? Maybe how did God stretch you or teach you even in that time?
Yes, so I got back from Tennessee just a couple weeks ago. The competition was finals was on June 24th, and I was there for a whole week. So it was a really great experience. It was probably like one of the best experiences of my life because I got to learn and grow so much as just a person and as a title holder. I just had the biggest honor being able to represent Florida on the national stage. And it was just a huge blessing and opportunity for me. And it was literally so fun. Um, and I was just so thankful that I got the chance to be able to do that.
So I was just writing, and here's a question I have for you. What did you learn that maybe it surprised you a little? Like you weren't expecting to learn that. Something that's like, wow, I'm really glad that I learned that. Maybe it was something about yourself, just any lesson that maybe you learned while you were there that kind of surprised you a little.
Yeah, so probably for me, I would say that it was really surreal getting there and realizing that, going into it, I always knew that I was the Florida representative. But once I got there, it was really surreal to know that like I was really representing Florida. And when I realized like all these girls are from all these different states and like I'm the only person from Florida, like it's almost kind of like it's like a responsibility where I was just like so honored that I had the responsibility to like represent Florida. And so I really learned like truly because when I was crowned, I knew I'd be representing Florida. But once I got there, I truly learned like kind of what that felt like to be representing the whole state, like everyone in the state, and realizing that like when they're talking about Florida, like they're talking about me because no
Mm.
one else here is representing Florida. I'm representing Florida. And so that was like super neat. And competing at a state level, that's typically not what it feels like because you're not representing the state, but at a national level, you are. And so that was like just kind of something that I learned and that I was so thankful to be able to experience that feeling.
And that I'm glad you said it like that because even though like you're watching it and you're experiencing it, I'm talking about us regular folks, not the superstars like you, but we're watching it and then you just that was great perspective. When they talk about Florida, they're talking about Mallory Cunningham. She
Yeah.
is the Florida representative. So that's kind of neat that you got that perspective. I think about it in this regard when somebody says Christian, when they're talking about a Christian, they're talking about us. And so there's some good and bad with that, right?
Yeah.
The Christians in our country, unfortunately, sometimes have a very bad name. Many people don't want to follow Christ because they don't like his representatives, us as Christians. And so I wonder, kind of going back to the Florida stage, did anyone ever kind of ask you any questions? Florida is on the national news, whether we want to be or not.
Yeah. All the
Did you
time.
did you have to field any questions that people kind of say, "Hey, what's going on with this?" Or were you shielded from that?
No, yes, absolutely. So first off, like a lot of the girls, we all loved learning about everyone's different states and everything. But Florida is such a popular state that a lot of the girls were asking me about like things in Florida. And, I was like, you're right. Like no one else here, even though they may have been to Florida, like lives in Florida and knows Florida like I do.
Hmm.
So it was cool to be able to like talk about it like that. And then even in my interview, like it was also kind of, an interesting thing, like, because at a state level, when I've competed before, the judges are all typically from Florida and have
Mm,
lived in Florida. And then at the national level, the judges aren't. And so they were asking me about Florida and certain things that were kind of going on in the news, like with our governor. And
mm,
so that was kind of like a moment for me too, to be like, oh, like, you're right. All these people don't know about Florida as much as I do. And it is a really, Florida's always in the news because something's always going on here. So,
yeah,
um, Florida is like, I feel like that's a state that people are always kind of thinking about and interested in.
yeah, yeah. That's a fact. And we're very popular. We are a destination within the United States,
Yeah.
California, New York, Washington, D.C., and I would think Florida. I'm not looking at any list, but I would think those would be the top 4 or 5 places. I guess Hawaii would be in there, but when you're talking about the continuous
Oh yeah, Florida
United
is
States,
definitely like at the
yeah,
top.
yeah, it's got to be up there. So I can imagine that. I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
think about this, but I thought it was kind of neat. You just made me think of it. When you're representing the state at a national level panel, then you have people, there may not even be one person from your state on the panel. And if you think about it, the most, was there 50, were there 50 states represented?
There was Yes, there was 51 because we had Miss District of Columbia.
Oh, okay. So 51, and how many judges?
I believe there was 5 or 6, I believe.
Okay. So it's not possible for at least 45 places did not have a representative on that panel. And that's
Yeah.
taken if each person was from somewhere different. 2 people from New York makes that number go. So it's kind of neat. I hadn't thought about that. Uh, and
Yeah.
another thing, I want to apologize to the listeners and to you because I just realized I was yelling. and, I,
Oh,
and I think it's because
no, it's
I'm looking at you and you're outside. So I was
yeah.
using my outside voice.
Oh, no, it doesn't sound like that to me.
Okay,
So it
okay.
doesn't sound like that
I
on
just
my
re
phone.
Yeah, that's on me. So now you're back.
Mhm.
You said 2 weeks. Is 2 weeks enough time to be settled?
Yeah, it was definitely like I needed to take a couple days off to kind
Mm,
of reset back after coming back from Tennessee because I had so much unpacking to do and just so much, like, I needed so much time to sleep
mm.
because we didn't get much sleep during the week. And then yeah, I slept a lot after I came back. But I feel like I'm back to back on regular track, back on
Yeah.
track.
So the last time you were here, you talked a little bit about your your initiative with youth homelessness.
Hmm.
And so can you give us an update, kind of how that's going? Were you able to share that with the judges panel, and how was that received?
Yes, I was so excited to bring my initiative to the national level. And I am so excited to continue to keep working on it during my year as Miss Florida Volunteer because I still have the rest of the year as Miss Florida Volunteer. So I was so excited to bring it to nationals because it's been something that I've been working on basically almost all of my life, and it's just been a huge part of my life. So I was excited to be able to talk about it with the judges, and I even got talked with some of the girls, the other girls competing about it. And now that I've already competed at nationals, I'm able to put a lot of more time and effort into now my year as Miss Florida. So I'm excited to be able to, keep working on that and continue to connect with other organizations around Florida who are also working to stop youth homelessness. And so going into like the next few months, it's going to be definitely a goal that I'm hoping to accomplish to complete my year.
So, what is your message to us? Us being the citizens of Florida. I have listeners that listen in the Panhandle. I have listeners that listen, of course, in Central Florida where I live. And for this episode, there will probably be some listeners from where you are. What is your message to us as far as how can we help you with your initiative?
Yeah. So first is I I started this initiative when I had first recognized that there was an issue, and that was because I saw a homeless family living just in the woods, and I was really little, and so I knew that like I wanted to be able to help. And so since then, because I just started by getting involved. And so that would pretty much be like my message across the board is just to get involved, because there are so many organizations across Florida that work with the homeless youth. And no matter where you are, like there's an organization there. So I would just always say like getting involved, finding some place that you can volunteer at. They're always needing volunteers to pass out food or to package food or to make meals and snack bags or hygiene bags, because that's something that I love to do when I go into schools or like youth groups and organizations like that and stuff, is to make snack bags that then I can distribute to the homeless, or hygiene bags where they'll collect hygiene supplies like for a week or two, and then we'll come to the school and like we'll pack them together. So even just simple like small things like that really make a difference. And that would probably be like the first way that you can really directly affect someone, is just by getting involved in volunteering.
That's good. This past school year, I think it was March timeframe. It was sometime this in the spring. I just don't remember exactly when. But a couple of my students and I, it was one of my classes, we were talking about feeding the homeless, and one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, we're all sitting in this room in our school packing meals. We packed 30 meals because we wanted to be able to go out and give them out in an afternoon. And in Lakeland, we do have homelessness, but we were trying to find people that were in kind of out of the way places, because we have an area in our city where there are facilities there for homeless that will put you up for the night, put you up for multiple nights, feed you. But, so a lot of those people are taken care of with the organizations that are there. But we have people across our city who are not taken care of that well. So we wanted to reach out to them. And so we did. We put the meals together, we went and we did that. And it was a lot of what you just said. And that was just getting involved, just putting the meals together and taking them out. And the students, so now we have an organization that doesn't have a name. They said a hashtag GJHS feeding Lakeland or something like that, but I don't think that's the actual name that it's going to be. But we have a teacher sponsor. We have a student who was a junior last year. They'll be a senior this year. We actually have some supplies and we'll endeavor to get more. But I say that to piggyback with what you just said, because we're talking to the listeners. What can you do? Like Mallory said, get involved. I guess do something, and don't just sit back and act like this is not an issue. So I appreciate that greatly. What is God teaching you these days?
Well, honestly, like just being at nationals, I truly just felt like so grateful to be there. I was so thankful that I had been blessed with giving me the opportunity to be able to do that. And just coming back from nationals, like feeling so grateful that I had like the once in a lifetime opportunity, because it really was like just so incredible. And just being there was so inspiring, being with all the girls, and just so motivating to, come back to my state and continue to work on that. So I've just really been trying to follow like, God's plan, and just
Mm,
see like where the rest of the year is going to take me as Miss Florida Volunteer. I'm hopefully going to be working on some really neat partnerships and
mm,
sponsorships for the next girl to be crowned Miss Florida Volunteer. And so I'm just kind of been praying through that, and just kind of just hoping for whatever's in store, whatever God has in store.
praise God. Yeah, that's a blessing. I love talking to you. You just have this positive attitude. And I think that's what gets things done because people want to work with you because
Oh,
you're
thank
positive.
you.
So
Thank you.
who made the biggest impression on you at Miss Volunteer America? And I'm talking about, I mean, my kind of the focus is a title holder, but if it wasn't a title holder, of course you can say that one as well.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, there were so many people at Miss Volunteer America that made the week so incredible. Honestly, like the board and like all of the staff and volunteers at Miss Volunteer America, we had the best hostesses,
Mm,
and the best people backstage to help us. We had the best security team. They were really so awesome. They kept us, safe throughout the week. And of course, Allison DeMarcus, she just put so much into the pageant and the week, in making it like the best experience for the girls. And truly like that made the week, because you can
mm,
just tell how much effort and love goes into the organization. And so really it was so many people that just played such an important role. And I think that if it wasn't for them, like really it would not have been
mm,
as great of a week as it was, because there was just so many people like backstage and behind the scenes that did so much to help us all like just have the best week ever. There are
praise
so many
God.
partners, sponsors, and so many partnerships. And the city of Jackson, they were just so amazing. We got to go out to the Rotary Club, the Jackson Rotary Club. We
Mm,
got to meet with a ton of members there, and just this city, like they're so welcoming. They literally were so excited that we were there, and they've been so helpful, like just supporting us so much.
yeah.
So it was really incredible.
That's good. That's good to hear. And I like you just shared the wealth. Who was your roommate? What state was she from?
My roommate was Tennessee.
Oh,
Yes, which was so fun, because she was she actually lived like on the other side of the state of Tennessee, but she does so much in Jackson because of being Miss Tennessee Volunteer, and she actually was crowned um in Jackson. So it was super helpful to have her as my roommate, because she knew like all about Tennessee and Jackson,
mm,
and it was really fun.
yeah. Now, do you plan on going back and visiting with her, hanging out, maybe a weekend or
Yes,
something?
so the Miss Tennessee, myself and a couple of the other girls we all want to, go to each other's, next pageants when they
Mm.
crown the new girl. And so I'm hoping that I'll be able to go to the Miss Tennessee volunteer pageant at the end of this month, because
Oh,
also I had a princess and she was from Tennessee, and she'll be at the pageant. And so it'll be like a little reunion. So I'm hoping
oh,
that I can go back and go to the Miss Tennessee volunteer pageant,
man,
because
that's quick.
I know, yes. Well, she was crowned, it'll be like a full year,
Uh-huh.
but they have their pageant like at the end of yeah, it'll be like a quick from like nationals to a couple weeks of rest, and then back into pageant land.
Yeah. You know, do you know? I know you do, but I'm going to say it anyway. Amber Boykin.
Yes.
So Amber was Miss Watermelon Florida. I don't know the exact name of it.
Mhm.
And the way that title works is you win the title. After you win the title, about a month or two later, the person who gave the title up to you goes to compete for nationals, and you have your entire year. Then when your year is over, you give up your crown and
And then
then
you
you go to nationals. So there's no overlap, at least in Florida. I can't speak for other states, but in
Mhm.
Florida, there's no overlap. They have an entire year. And then I would imagine everybody is like that. You have an entire year
Yeah.
and then you go to the, yeah. So I thought that was kind of neat. It's a
Yes,
little
that
bit,
is interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's also a little bit smaller. I
Mhm.
think there's only 8 states that participate because everybody doesn't grow watermelon because you're pretty
Right.
much you're
Right.
the,
That's true.
yeah, you're the ambassador for the watermelon industry. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
that made me think of that, it happened so quick.
Yes.
Like, yeah,
Sometimes those pageants, like, they're quick. You go from like one to the other.
yeah. So, well, hey, before we get out of here, first of all, thank you so much for your time.
Of
But would
course.
you,
I'm so glad I was able to come on here today.
praise God, would you give our listeners a word of encouragement, something that even if they made it here and they thought, okay, well, that wasn't, could you give them an encouraging word to kind of end the show?
Yes. My encouragement would probably be just going to nationals and coming back like made me so grateful for being able to represent Florida. And so it's been an honor to all the listeners who are in Florida. Like it's really been an honor to be able to represent you at the national stage. And so I would just say like for encouragement, like I think coming back from that really made me grateful to be able to live in Florida, have the opportunity to do that, and just like to be grateful for even if it's not something as big as representing the state at nationals, like just any little thing,
Mm,
because that really like just goes a long way. And especially for me, like being at nationals just made me like so grateful to be able to live in Florida and to be able to have that opportunity. And it truly like made the experience. So,
praise God. Well, I will let that be the final word. Thank you for your time.
of course, thank you so much again for having me.